We're back
We're back.
on a Monday
Yeah.
to talk about the 48 Laws of Power, Law 17, the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Yep.
And Law 17 is keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Humans are creatures of habit with an insatiable need to see familiarity in other people's actions. Your predictability gives them a sense of control. Turn the tables. Be deliberately unpredictable. Behavior that seems to have no consistency or purpose will keep them off balance, and they will wear themselves out trying to explain your moves. Taken to an extreme, this strategy can intimidate and terrorize. This is a deep one.
I love it.
Cultivate an air of unpredictability. I just thought the first person that came to mind was Mike Tyson,
Okay.
biting the ear off of Evander Holyfield. And, I'm not a huge boxing guy, or anything, but I know everybody knows of that incident because it was so unpredictable. And he created terror, and he already was a menacing guy. And when he did that, though, it was you broke all the rules.
Oh. I mean, he got sanctioned. He got points off on that fight.
But you see it. You see him take the bite of the ear and spit out a chunk of Evander Holyfield's ear.
I think he bit him twice.
Did he?
I think he bit him twice in that fight.
Jesus.
I think so.
And so, talk about
we should
being
we should know
unpredictable.
that, but I think he bit him twice. I have such admiration for Mike Tyson because the growth and development of that man, and he is genuine to his core, and some of the stuff that he says is, deep.
Yeah.
He's on another level, man.
Yeah.
I have a great deal of admiration. That man has brought himself up, and
Yeah.
he says it. He says it. He says, "I was a black kid from the ghetto." I think in one of his, he's just a tremendous man. And he's doing a lot of good.
He has a
in
lot
the
of
world.
wisdom.
Oh.
But I definitely think he used this.
Oh yeah.
I definitely think he used this. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you can also, the other person that came to mind, and then if you have something you want to open with, but Diego Maradona using his hand to score that goal in the World Cup. And I think it was against England.
Okay.
And, I believe they cross the ball in, and he makes it look like he's going to do a header, but he uses his fist. And he uses his fist to punch the ball into the goal, and they win that game.
Woo!
That's unpredictable. You're not supposed to use your hands, but he broke all the rules, and he was a guy that was also a bit crazy, unpredictable. The guy
Right.
you couldn't. And so I think that in terms of creating, like, once you're on the field, you have like this, whether it was in the boxing ring, on the field, or in a business setting, you're not human. It's like you have another element, or they can't place you. These are people that at any point in time,
Well, they're terrified of you because they just don't know which way you're going to go.
almost like having an element of crazy.
Yeah.
They had like that.
Well, one of the things that I heard about Maradona was that he was able to get himself into like a groove, like a phase. You're in the zone, the
Like
zone?
a rhythm, a zone.
Yeah, you're in the zone, and when you apparently can reach that mentally, right? Since you're an athlete already,
Yeah.
you can make your body do incredible things that people would not. Messi is an example too.
Yeah.
He looks like he can create magic with the ball.
Yeah.
It's incredible the stuff that he does.
Yeah, you never know what turn he's going to take. You never know.
Yeah.
And you can't, because it's constantly changing.
Right. There's lately been some platform, some guy that's analyzing like Messi's every move.
Oh, wow.
And There's one which is really interesting where he should have fallen down, but he doesn't. And he's talking about the strength of his ligaments. And that's why his ligaments in his legs are so strong. Over the years, they've developed to this tremendous tensile strength, but yet flexible. So you see him almost, like those motorcycle riders that are just like making a turn. He's down.
On
He's
the verge of falling.
he's down on the floor practically.
But he doesn't fall.
He doesn't fall. He maintains his speed to a certain extent and keeps going. And God knows what he did with that ball. But yeah.
Crazy.
But not being predictable is something that I think is a quality of many, many successful people in all areas of the environment.
Life.
Of life. I remember reading one time where this very famous pianist ended up, he was doing a concerto and he either made a mistake or forgot a portion, and then he just improvised and everybody gave him a standing ovation, and it was like one of the best performances he had ever made. But he actually either made a mistake or had forgotten a portion of the song, and he just improvised. He was in the zone, and he just, and then he kept going, and he was shocked. And then it's only years later that he talks about it. Years later, But being predictable, I like being unpredictable, and I think being unpredictable is extremely important. However, being predictable provides stability for the family. You know that, God willing, you come home from work, you've had a good day or a good week, so you earn a good pay, you're able to put food on the table, your children don't have to worry about there's not going to be food on the table. So there's certain things to be said about predictability.
Right.
That kind of stuff is very helpful for the family environment. And I'm always thinking about the family.
Yeah.
And so being predictable in that sense, I don't see it a weakness. Okay? But it's definitely a weakness depending what business you're in. Because, for example, if you're in the mafia, and I love reading about the mafia, and I know very little about it, but I know that Paul Castellano used to love to go to this restaurant in New York like every, Monday or every Wednesday or whatever. And he was there every week, either once or twice a week at that famous restaurant. And he was gone down outside that restaurant because everybody knew that he was going to go because he loved it so much. He went there all the time.
Right.
And there's a couple of restaurants that I like a lot, and I always go to them. And so that's a problem. I'm not in the mafia, know.
Well,
But
I think the move that John Gotti did of killing Paul Castellano was the unpredictable move here.
also, right?
Well, that was a precedent that you could never kill your boss.
Oh,
Those were the
okay.
Cosa Nostra. You're supposed to follow these rules.
Right.
And he was either the first or one of the first to kill somebody in higher power than him and take over like a coup. He killed and then he just took over power. He became the boss. That's the way I understand it. He wasn't supposed to do that.
I think you're right. Yeah.
You can't do that. So John Gotti was very unpredictable by doing that. The problem was that now it set a precedent that they didn't have to follow those rules anymore.
Yeah.
Of not you can't kill your boss and become the boss. So have you ever seen it in a business setting where I've personally seen some instances where people wear certain clothing to stand out. They always got a red hat on, or they wear these crazy colored shoes to be maybe unpredictable, like, oh, this guy's always coming in with something new, or maybe certain ideas. Have you ever seen in a business setting?
When we did a lot of marketing, when we were in the insurance, well, we were still in the insurance business, but we did a lot of marketing prior to COVID, okay? And there was one guy that had the craziest socks all the time. And he would make it a point to buy these crazy, sometimes ugly socks.
To stand out.
And every time, he came in, everybody would ask him, hey, let me see your socks. And, he stood out like that.
Yeah.
But in business, the art of war tells you all the time.
The book, The Art of War.
The book, The Art of War, yeah. It tells you, hey, you know what? Fake it out so that your enemy thinks that you're going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, you're going to flank them from the side, Yeah, and,
using like deception.
Right. And from what I understand, and I'm no expert, but that's what made Napoleon Bonaparte an exceptional warrior. Because, Robert Greene has done extensive study of Napoleon Bonaparte, and I've read a lot of Robert Greene. And so he says that Napoleon had the gift of assessing the
like the battlefield.
Exactly, the battlefield.
The terrain.
The terrain immediately.
Yeah.
And now we're going back in the days where they had muskets and they would march into
bayonets.
Right, yeah. And so, bayonets. But so it was a totally different fighting techniques, right? Would he be a tremendous general today? Probably. Because one of the things that is okay, so he was unpredictable because he would entice the enemy into certain moves. Even if he didn't have the advantage, he would entice him by bringing, let's say, X number of soldiers to this area, expose them and attack, and then he would flank the rest. So according to Robert Greene, he was an exceptional he designed, he was
like
gifted.
A strategist.
Yeah, strategist. He was exceptional with that. And he won a lot of wars, a lot of them. And from what I read also is that he was in the midst of it, okay? So a lot of these great warriors and business people, and I think you can extend it to any field, like I said.
Yeah.
I talked about the pianist. I think it's
one thing that because predictability has to do with self-control. He's saying that when you're predictable, people feel like they're more in control, right? In a sales setting, I know you've talked to me about that. Carl, this gentleman who used to sell life insurance, and he would open the conversation with, you really don't want to buy life insurance, do you? Something like that, right?
It's amazing. Yeah, that's exactly how he sold it.
Which is not what you would say typical sales pitches, right? So it was a different angle. It was unpredictable. Maybe it threw the person off. Maybe it made him laugh. But now he's having a conversation.
Well, this is a gentleman that I admired and I looked up a lot because he was already established when I came into the business. And his numbers were very high, especially in life insurance.
Yeah.
And he was always very down to earth, no nonsense type of guy. And every now and then, whenever I could, which was not often, I would try to see how he would, sell. And the word got out that that's exactly how he started every life meeting.
It's interesting.
He said, you don't really want to buy life insurance, right? Nah. But see, I think having analyzed it for a few years, and trying to learn from Carl, if you're coming to a sales meeting, I think that the person that's coming, the client, maybe is a little hypertensive. They're worried.
Yeah.
They
maybe
feel that they're going to be sold something.
Yeah. They maybe have a little bit of a wall put up.
Right. But by saying, you don't really want to buy it, right? I think that he made them defenseless. I think that they were able to take a breather and sit back and say, you know what? This guy it's not really going to sell me anything.
Yeah.
And that made them vulnerable. Or I don't want to look at the art of sale as something that's as
Persuasion.
attacking. If it's something that you're doing for the benefit of the client and the client sees the benefit, the
Right.
purchase will happen and it will stay on the books because it was a need that was fulfilled.
Correct.
If you're selling because you want to make a buck or you want to get ahead or you want to, have all the, then
It's
that's
short-lived.
it's going to be short-lived and it's going to fall off the books. So, but Carl was always looking out for the client. Always, always, always.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was using that, Yeah, I think of
Well, look, in war, being nowadays, I forget who it was. There was a general. There was. This was recent in recent years. They bombed someplace, I don't know, in the Middle East somewhere, and it's difficult because you're talking about lives here now. You're not talking about a sale or something that's inanimate. Now you're talking about life. But somebody was asked, well, why didn't you tell them that you were going to attack? And one of the colonels, I think, said, well, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to tell the enemy that I'm going to attack them? That's never happened in the history, I guess, of war, right? Because the element of surprise, in fact, Sun Tzu talks about that a lot, where the element of surprise is a very, very important element where you can take, you can start with 23 people and go against 100, but if the 23 have the element of surprise, the 100 people better beware.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's-
think in terms of like power and especially if you're going to be on the attack or you're going to make a certain move, you want to use the element of surprise.
you do.
You don't want to be telling people. But I'm trying to think, in a way also, when he says that it keeps others in suspended terror,
Yeah,
it reminds me a little bit of, the concept of do you want to be feared or loved? And like Machiavelli would say, you want to be feared.
correct.
That well, I'm not sure if it's Machiavelli, but there's a
It
lot of
is
people
Machiavelli.
that say you want to be feared, right?
It is Machiavelli. Machiavelli said, I'd rather be feared than loved. Fear will, it's a stronger feeling because love will wade away or diminish potentially. And so he says, I'd rather be feared. Now, what was that movie that we like a lot, The Bronx Tale?
Mm-hmm.
Chaspineri, what's his
Chaz Palminteri.
Palminteri. I think there's a scene where the kid says, well, you rather be loved or feared? And he says, well, if possible, I'd like to be both, loved and feared. But it's very hard to have that. So if I had to choose, I'd rather be feared. They fear me. And then he goes on to say, when I say a joke, everybody laughs. I know I'm funny, but I'm not that funny.
Yeah.
But they laugh because they fear me. And he goes on. He says, I give them a little bit so they're happy, but not too much so that they don't need me. I mean, it's...
yeah, he's using the
oh,
loss.
man, let me tell you. And I think he wrote the script. And he got Robert De
Oh,
Niro
really?
to play. I think he did, yeah. I think he
Wow.
did, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I think that being unpredictable is something that everybody needs to do, okay?
Yeah.
Even in marriage. You want to have a level of unpredictability because how boring can you be if you're always predictable? And as the years go by and you're married for 20, 30, 40 years, you need a little bit of unpredictability to spice things up a little bit, Otherwise, it's, and the same goes for business. The same goes,
Yeah.
I mean, I think for a lot of things.
It's like if the other person in like the game of chess, right, it's your opponent. If they already know your moves and you come out with the same opening every time and you attack in the same way every time, you're predictable and they'll know how to defend themselves against you. But if you come out and you throw them off, you maybe throw a piece out at them as bait or whatever, right? You give a piece and throw them. I remember I was playing a good buddy in chess, and I used my queen to threaten his queen. And so I had put my queen in a position that if that my queen could have been eaten by his queen, but I was attacking him. I put the move in the offensive, and that confused them so much, which is what this talks about. It confused my opponent so much that I would do that. So he didn't move his queen because he's like, he's not gonna kill me with his queen because I could just kill him with my king or something like that. So he makes another move completely, and I took my queen and I ate his queen, and it threw him off so much because I had given up mine, right? What's it called when you?
Yeah, it's
I had sacrificed my queen.
Yeah, you sacrificed
because I knew I was gonna get eaten, and there was really no point of that kill. But he was using that queen way too much. He was good with the queen. And the moment I took his queen out, I beat him.
Well, see, that's excellent. That's a strategy. That's strategizing.
Yeah.
You know, if you know that your opponent is really good in one, you know,
Yeah, he was too good with the queen.
take the queen out, and now he's got to figure out what else to do.
Right.
You threw him off.
It confused him because he couldn't fathom, like, how do you...
I love it.
Why would you get rid of your queen, the most powerful, piece on the board?
I love it.
And it's funny. He's a great player. But, yeah, anyways, that's being unpredictable. And, in the world of business, I know that it's very valuable. And it's also to note when people are maybe using it against you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you catch yourself being a little bit like constantly in this state of, let's say, not the word terror, but like, what are they gonna do, kind of fearful, it's not a good state to be in. You're more defensive,
Right.
and so if you can position yourself so that you're more in control, and that's what he's talking about. If you're going to be using Law 17, Robert Greene's saying, you'll be the one in control, because since you're not predictable and they can't see a routine in you, they will feel they'll feel that they don't have any control.
That's right, because we're
Yeah.
creatures of habit. Okay?
Yeah.
We're creatures of habit. And we're going to,
Yeah.
I do it. I go into my closet, and I have a lot of clothes, right? But I end up gravitating
Towards the same?
to the same ones all the time. People would think, this poor guy, this doesn't,
He's
and
got the
it's-
same shirt on.
same shirt, I mean, they're nice and clean and washed, but I end up gravitating towards the same ones, and when, something that makes me feel comfortable is a quick thing, let's go hit the streets kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Unless I have a meeting, of course, and if I have a meeting and I feel that it needs to be more formal, know.
Right.
But we're creatures of habit, so every time I was reading something the other day. It says, do you dress in a bored manner, like you look bored, or they come and you're dressing the same way all the time? And the guy says, I have the answer to your ailment, your problems. Switch the clothes around, because every time you open the closet or you slide the closet door,
You see the same clothes.
yeah, you're gonna go to the same area, which is, if you go to the right because that's where you have the clothes that you use most, you're gonna go to the right. So then spatter them all over the place. And so he says that'll solve your issue. You won't find them that easily. And another thing you'll find, you'll say, oh, maybe I can try this one today.
That's cool.
Because
That's
I got,
good advice.
yeah, I got stuff there that's new that I haven't used. I keep using the same old one all the time, or not all the time, but I mean,
Oh, I better see you, and I'll be in a different shirt tomorrow.
Let's hope so. There's George Bernard Shaw. I read a quote many, many years ago that he had said, and it kind of applies to this a little bit, because we're talking about being unpredictable. And we're creatures of habit. So your friends, uh, your family, acquaintances, they look at you and they make a decision about you, and they kind of put you like in a frame, so to speak, right?
A
This is
box.
what you are in a box, and this is how you're going to react. This is what you've done. This is how I feel that. And we are creatures of habit, so sometimes we do that. But George Bernard Shaw said, hey, you know what? My tailor is the smartest man I know, because every time he sees me, he takes my measurements anew. End of quote. And I remember reading that, like, I'm telling you, Mike, maybe, I don't know, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. And I thought that it was perfect, because the tailor
Yeah.
did not assume that he had the same measurements as the last time that he saw him, whether it was 6 months, a year, or whatever. So every time that he went in, his tailor took new measurements. Okay? And so he says, look, he's not putting me on a frame and hanging me up on a wall.
Right.
He's taking new measurements because he's allowing me to grow.
Wow.
And that's the thing. You grow as a person, as a human being. You grow as a father, as a husband,
As a businessman.
as a businessman,
Negotiator.
negotiating.
Anything.
You're not and Patrick Bet-David says this all the time. The old Patrick Bet-David could not run the businesses that he's running today.
Yeah.
And actually, Peterson says it too, And so I remember that quote from
It's
George
powerful.
Bernard Shaw. And so it always stayed in my mind, because I thought it was powerful,
Yeah.
And I try to do that with people, because everybody is growing and developing. You're not the same. You're just not the same man. Look at all the stuff that happened with the pandemic.
Right.
We had to grow and adjust to a new lifestyle completely.
As with kids, you can see, oh, they're growing, they're learning new things. Every time you see them, maybe every
Yeah.
week, they have something new that they've learned. But with adults, we don't do that. With adults, we don't ask them what's the new thing sometimes that they've learned. How are they evolving as a person? Sometimes, like you said, you just assume. And there are some people that stop growing. They're no longer interested in life, things, people, learning. And maybe they do stop growing, but not everybody.
Right.
Not everybody. And some people, like you're always learning something new,
I'm trying.
whether it's an ancient mystery or something in business. Or, I went to the bank the other day, and the teller was explaining to me, when you open a credit card, if you pay the whole statement balance, that there's you pay no interest, right? As long as you pay it off every single month. And I said, that's great, man. I don't remember being told this stuff when I opened up a credit card years ago. And he's like, yeah, well, I tell everybody that comes in. And then I asked him one question on my statement, and he didn't know, so he called his manager, and she didn't really know. And then after the interaction, he says, you know what, man? I've been doing this forever, and I just learned something new. And I'm always learning something new in this. And he had that mentality of, even though he's an expert in banking, he's always learning something new. And I think that we take that approach. And you can learn something from anyone, really.
Oh, absolutely.
You never know who's going to teach you that
Oh,
that lesson if you have an open ear.
my grandkids are teaching me stuff.
There you go.
I'm learning from my grandkids all the time.
There you go.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have sometimes no fear, but they don't know what the limitations are.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
because we self-limit ourselves as human beings.
Yep.
So, but they have no limitations. I mean, they see a 20-foot wall and they think they can climb it. And maybe they can.
Yeah.
We can't climb it because we think we can't. So, but I'm learning from them all the time. Uh, little things. It's a very amazing thing.
It reminds me of the guy that's new to business and doesn't know any better and just goes talking to everybody, starts getting a ton of business, this and that, and people are like, "How are you doing it?" And it's something so basic, but he doesn't have these rules that we put in our mind, self-limiting beliefs.
Correct.
He's just, or she's out there just doing, they don't know any better. And sometimes that's the best thing. I remember you telling me that when I was first getting started, early 18, 19, 20, something like that. And I think that that is a gift, not knowing any better. It's a gift in to a certain extent in a business setting, because the guys who have been doing it for a long time, or the ladies that have been doing it for a long time, are already kind of habitual creatures. They've already formed these habits and they're not willing to maybe adapt. But the guys who's new is unpredictable, and the guy who's new sees maybe opportunities. And it's kind of like in Spanish, mejor pedir perdón que permiso. Better
Right.
to ask, what is it, for forgiveness than permission.
Yes, absolutely. It's better
So-
to ask for forgiveness than for permission. Yeah.
When it comes to business and certain things, absolutely.
But look, yeah, absolutely. Being unpredictable, I think, is an excellent quality. And some people have to apply a certain amount of energy to go for it, because it's very easy to fall into your routine.
Yes.
It's very easy. Okay?
And
You
that
have-
has its benefits too. you
yeah.
know, having a routine, like Jocko Willink wakes up at whatever time every day, whatever, that
And he
has
exercises, and
there are benefits to it.
yes, there is. Yes, they are.
But maybe figuring out what works best for you.
Right. And especially, a lot of people would say, look, when you go out into the business world, okay, because we're talking about the 48 laws of power. Usually these laws are power moves, okay?
Right.
So definitely being in the corporate world, being unpredictable, for sure, people are afraid of you. No doubt about it. They don't know what angle you're coming at. Being a boxer, you learned a new move that's unorthodox, right? And you come in with this thing that you have perfected, and now they gotta, like, I think that was something like
McGregor was unpredictable.
unpredictable, and so was Valenzuela, the Dodgers pitcher.
Oh,
They had not seen somebody, I don't know if it's a lefty right now or whatever, but somebody throw the ball like he did, and they had to adjust to that. After a while, they started hitting him, okay? But in the beginning,
they couldn't
he
catch
was
it.
striking people left and right. Fernando Valenzuela was an exceptional pitcher. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, he's just absolutely incredible. He's gone down in history probably as one of the best. But he did have something different in the beginning where nobody could hit him. And he also was a very nice human being. So he brought in a lot of people. So his fame grew. I mean, he packed the stadiums. But he was unpredictable. He had this, whatever it was that he threw, and it was in a different format. And so, it created terror, and people were
Yeah.
getting striked out. And then you get a reputation for striking people out. So whoever's coming up to bat, it's already had to contend psychologically with that, let alone
Right.
you got a 90-mile-an-hour ball coming at you where you got split seconds to make a decision on what you're going to do with it. So
Yeah, it adds to the psychology.
it adds to the psychology of
Absolutely.
it. Like when you took the queen away from your buddy, you psychologically blew him out of the water. Because,
Yeah.
now he's not as good. He lost his best piece that he feels very comfortable playing with. So being unpredictable, I love it. I like being unpredictable. I fall into my routine a lot, but I make a conscious effort. I put energy into this. I actually want to be unpredictable.
Yeah,
And so I think it's very good for all of us to learn that.
I agree. We'll wrap it up there.
All
Thank
right.
you guys for listening, and We link on the description all of the laws we've done so far. So if you
Yeah.
guys liked it, check
Every
it out.
Monday.
Every Monday.
All right.
Thank you.
Mhm.